If ACT's position and policy on firearm laws has got your attention this year, it might be time to take a second look at giving your party vote to ACT, because actually we're a party that has been a useful ally for the hunting community, and we've been there all along. Back in April, I found out what it's like to be 1 against 119. In fact, it felt like one person against the whole country when I said it was wrong to try to fight terrorism by dispatching our democracy, to try to hold a country together by turning on a group of people who'd done nothing wrong. Those bans and that law was the worst thing our country could possibly have done. And I'm afraid to say that what I predicted at the time, the abject failure of the buyback and the erosion of trust and respect for the law amongst the licensed firearm owning community, has come true. It's absolutely critical that we reverse the worst of those changes, and it's important that we continue to oppose the second tranche of firearm laws that will reduce the ability of people to form clubs and societies that actually provide the community we really need for safe firearms use. The register will be a disaster as we see more and more government departments losing sensitive information already. We don't need to give them more. And as for the idea that owning a firearm is a privilege, not a right, well, if you look up the dictionary, it says a privilege is a kind of right. This government just hasn't thought it through. Perhaps worst of all with the second tranche of laws, they're planning to have only 5 months in select committee. 2 of those months will be over the Christmas break that Parliament has, so really it's a 3-month public consultation instead of the usual 6. Why? Because they want the second set of gun laws to be passed fully through Parliament in time for the March 15 anniversary in 2020. An election year. Once again, this government is putting political optics ahead of good lawmaking, and it's frankly despicable. I'm proud of what ACT has done standing on principle on firearm laws, but we also know that firearms are a small, or at least should be a small part of the policy landscape for the hunting community. Our fundamental view is that hunters are part of the modern New Zealand ecosystem. We reject the belief that the ecology would be better off without humans. We think that hunting is part of responsible game management, as well as providing meat, mateship and a sense of purpose and recreation to tens of thousands of New Zealanders. The key to keeping those objectives together is cooperation. Yes, DOC have a role. They're the largest landowner in New Zealand. But they should see the hunting community and the Game Animal Council as friends and allies as a matter of policy, not only when it suits them. We reject the idea that New Zealand would be a better place if it returned to the way it was before humans came. Even if it was true, it is now impossible to go back and costly and impractical to try. Altogether, the ACT Party can claim to be the only party in Parliament with a pathway back to Parliament that has taken a principled stand in support of this community. I hope that you'll pay it forward by giving your party vote to the ACT Party next year so we can more powerfully represent your interests in Parliament and put in place the kinds of policies that ACT promotes.
G'day my fellow hunters and shooters. I'm Victoria O'Brien and I'm appearing on behalf of New Conservative. Thanks of course to HuntingSpots. We're here today on my farm and shooting range. New Conservative stands for a decent society governed by democratic process, the freedom of the individual including the freedom of speech, the right to defend oneself and property, and the importance of family. It is because of this that New Conservative is committed to repealing the amendment to the Arms Act and any subsequent amendments. Before those, I had ECAT firearms that were used for both sport and hunting. With the right security and background checks, semi-automatic centre-fire rifles and shotguns should be returned to the ownership of fit and proper New Zealanders. New Conservative believes that the administration of the Arms Act needs to be independent from the police, and that crimes involving the use of firearms must be dealt with much more severely than they are at present. Because we care for our environment, we will phase out the use of 1080 poison in favour of trapping and hunting. We will also withdraw from the emissions trading scheme, Kyoto and Paris 2015 agreements, which unnecessarily burden ordinary New Zealanders without achieving or improving environmental outcomes. Because we believe in a sovereign New Zealand and our Kiwi way of life, a balance must be struck between immigration and the well-being of us who call New Zealand home. I am an immigrant and a New Zealand citizen. Those who choose to immigrate to New Zealand should embrace the New Zealand culture and not try to change it. New Conservative believes in equality for all New Zealanders, regardless of race, gender, or religion. We stand for New Zealand. If you really want change, we need to vote for it. That's New Conservative.
G'day hunters, here I am at Glendine Station with the Game Animal Council. It's only a small fallow deer, but one shot, one deer, that's a pretty effective, pretty efficient way of doing it. Look, I just want to acknowledge the tens and tens of thousands of hunters, whether you hunt for food, for recreation, for the great outdoors. I just want to acknowledge the passion that each of you have for your pastime and also what you do for New Zealand. We know that over 50,000 of you work hard helping New Zealand on conservation estate, helping to keep large animal numbers down. Without you, things would be very different. Now we're heading into select committee of a second round of firearms reforms. We in National are opposing those because they add cost and regulation onto law-abiding Kiwis like you and do little, if anything at all, to tackle genuine criminal behaviour and gangs. That's 180 degrees wrong. We're demanding the government change that. We've set out 13 points they need to change if they want our support. We know you love what you do and we're backing you. Kia ora, happy hunting.